What's up, everybody? I am your host, a decaying zombie back for revenge and cake. And that is my co-host, a monster in a box with an unlimited appetite. And welcome to the Grindhouse Syndicate, where today we bring you not one, but 5 horrifically grotesque horror stories that includes zombies, alien vegetation, and most importantly, cold-blooded murder. Because on this episode, we are talking about one of the greatest anthology films ever made, George A. Romero's Creepshow from 1982. Now, to be honest, my personal favorite anthology is Trick or Treat. That's just me.
Yeah,
But this one's really close. This one is up there. It's a fantastic movie.
yeah. Trick or Treat's just different because it's all Halloween.
It's all Halloween. It all
Halloween.
connects. You can watch it like fucking 5 times and notice things like going on in the
Yeah.
background. Yeah.
I think that's what really the fact that these stories don't connect and Trick or Treat does, and you don't really realize that until the end, and then you watch it for a second time, and you can pick up all these things in the background, and it had C. Ernst Hertz in it.
Yeah.
So, and fucking Sam is awesome.
Yeah.
Like Sam, but Creep is awesome too. Like he's fucking awesome.
This movie
So
is fantastic. I love the comic book style. I love the colors. The characters are good. Well, at least most of them. I won't say all of them. But this is a super fun movie, and when you picked it and I started watching, I was like, "Man, this would have went really well in October."
yeah.
This would have been a fantastic October movie.
Well, I almost didn't pick it for that reason because so the intro and outro take place during Halloween. So I'm like, is this considered a Halloween movie? But I haven't seen it on like lists of Halloween movies. None of the other stories have anything to do with Halloween. And you were pushing me into a movie. You were telling me I had to pick a movie.
I was strong-arming you.
So I had a backup, but I was like, oh fuck it. You know, it's hard to. We have so many Halloween movies to cover in October that if I don't do this movie because it's a Halloween movie, we may not get to it for 2 years, 3
Yeah, man.
years. So I was like, fuck it. I really want to do it. This movie is a fucking reunion of horror legends in their heyday. I mean, you got George Romero directing it, Stephen King writing it, and the greatest horror writers that ever existed. And then you have Tom Savini on the effects, like literally the most influential, famous effects person in horror. Like all 3 of those people changed the horror genre just by themselves. Like George Romero with the Night of the Living Dead and the whole of the Dead franchise completely changed everything, brought about zombies, which is a whole genre of horror movies now. Stephen King, who has wrote so many things that have been adapted into great horror movies. Like I said, the greatest horror novelist of all time. And then Tom Savini, a man who works on practical effects that literally was so good at his job, he changed in the 80s, he changed horror completely.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
He's worked on some of the most legendary films.
yeah, without him, do we have does the slasher craze of the 80s take off as big as it did without the things that he did with practical effects that he really, like, when you watch a slasher from the 80s, 90s, or even a lot of stuff now, the way they do those effects, he pioneered it. Like, he came up with those ways. So, you know, that's we got 3 people who literally changed horror coming together to make a really fun anthology series, and this which I don't know if it gets the credit that it really deserves, but this movie paved the way for Tales from the Crypt. Like,
Yeah, it's an ode to the Tales from the Crypt comic books, and when you look at the stories in the movie, they all could have been Tales from the Crypt episodes. Every one of them.
yeah, well, when you look at the style of the movie, the comic book style, how they have, like, the creeper for the intro and outro and being, like, the host for this comic book, and every one of the stories they have the comic book and the animation, and they do a freeze frame, and it switches over to the beginning of the episodes, and it ends the episodes that way. All of that is completely how Tales from the Crypt on HBO was designed, and this paved the way for that. And initially, that wasn't, like, necessarily the plan for that. I mean, it kinda was. The animated part, they weren't initially gonna animate all that, but they ended up, after the movie was shot,
I
doing the animations for it.
I'm glad they
And
did. It's a great part of the movie.
yeah, I agree. They took this comic book style and they used the color palette of comic books, which are these bright reds, blues, and greens, and yellows, and all these colors that pop in comic books, and they were able to make a awesome horror movie and add this color palette into it, and that's another thing that Tales from the Crypt does a lot. Tales from the Crypt is a big part of people our age's childhood. Like, a lot of big time horror fans love that show, and without the success of this movie, I don't know if we ever would have got Tales from the Crypt, and if we did, I don't know if they would have had a blueprint to go off of. I don't know if we would have got the same version of Tales from the Crypt that we ended up getting.
Yeah, this movie has an amazing vibe to it that after I watch it, like, I just wanna dig out my hoodies and go outside for chilly weather and carve some fucking pumpkins and all that shit, decorate my yard, like, that is what this movie gives me at least.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree completely. There's so much awesome stuff that this movie does really well for it feels like I'm watching an episode of Tales from the Crypt. Like, it's got that night, although it was made in the early '80s, and I had to go back and check the date on that because the 4K scan that I was watching was so good.
It's amazing.
I thought it was '90s. I was like, "Damn, I remember this movie being earlier than that, but this is, clearly not." And then I seen the date on it, and that makes it all the more impressive when you look at the practical effects, because whenever they do really good 4K scans of some movies, it hurts it because the practical effects, you can now see some of the dummies, how bad they look, or
Yeah, they never meant for it to be HD.
yeah. Yeah, they didn't know that you were gonna be able to see, like, every fucking drop of sweat on somebody from your TV sitting across your living room. So, when you take a movie like this and you put it in HD and it looks even scarier, like, the characters, like, in one of the story, I think it's the first story, when the fucking zombie dude, the dad crawls out of the ground and you see the close-up of his face, it's like, that stood the test of time. Like, that was meant to be seen in what we're watching it in, and they just didn't have the ability. They didn't cut any corners. That thing looks scary as fuck, and so I'm so glad that we get to see it in really good HD.
So with that being said, are you ready to dive into Creepshow?
I am ready.
Hello, boys and ghouls. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on with the show, talk about or submit your movie requests, or just say die, then I got good news for you. You can always find us at one of our social media accounts or our official website at Grindhouse.Horror.Pod.com, Facecrook at the Grindhouse Syndicate Horror Podcast, Instascam at grindhousesyndicate.horror.pod, and many gore, which you can always find links for in the show notes, as always. And you know what I always say, the morgue, the merrier. So please subscribe or follow for alerts on new episodes. Now, back to the show, kiddies. Frights, camera, action.
And if you really love us and don't want us to have our heads removed and turned into Father's Day cakes, give us a review. Creepshow is a 1982 American horror comedy anthology film directed by George A. Romero and written by Stephen King. It consists of 5 segments intercut with a 6th story acting mostly as an opening and ending. The film stars Hal Holbrook, Leslie Nielsen, Carrie Nye, E.G. Marshall, Ted Danson, and Ed Harris, and of course, Stephen King himself. We get to see some more Stephen King acting.
I wonder if he was like super coked up this time.
He kind of seems like
around
it.
the time he was.
Yeah, I could see that.
I seen some behind the scenes, like it was some Tom Savini footage he had, and one of them was him in the chair getting makeup done, and they asked him about the size, his shoe size, and I don't remember what he said, but it wasn't like a super impressive shoe size. And he starts talking about how like some measurement on your, like your chest or so. I didn't pay attention to exactly what, like his belly button to the chest or something. He's like, but that's what determines girth, and I'm girthy. And I'm like, man, did Stephen King just say he had a thick dick?
Big old thick cock.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right, Stephen.
I was like, I think Stephen King might be a little fucked up here in the chair. And he even, like, when he realizes they're recording it, he's like, "Oh, you're not recording it. Are you really recording it? Oh, you're recording this
for the whole world to
see." Like, yeah, your wife's gonna see you on here talking about how thick your cock is.
So it was produced by United Film Distribution Company and Laurel Show Incorporated. It had a budget of $8 million and a box office of $21 million. It was primarily shot on location in Pittsburgh because, George Romero loves some fucking Pittsburgh. And it was meant to pay homage to the EC horror comics of the 1950s, such as Tales from the Crypt, The Vault of Horror, and The Haunt of Fear. In order for the film to give viewers a comic book feel, Romero hired longtime effects specialist Tom Savini to replicate comic-like effects. So most of the film was shot in an abandoned all-girls school located outside Greensburg, Pennsylvania. The school was converted into a film studio, and the episodes The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill and They're Creeping Up on You, as well as the intro and outro, were filmed at the former school. Creepshow was given a 4-week test release in Boston during July of 1982 and had a wide release on November 10th of 1982. During its opening weekend, it grossed $5.8 million, making it number 1 at the U.S. box office. I just want to say, I think it was a little bit of a mistake to release it in November, because this movie would have killed in October.
Yeah. Yeah. Even, what would you say they released it November?
November.
So I think September would have been a really good one, too.
September, October, it would have killed it, I think. So the film was first released for the at-home video market on VHS in 1983, DVD on October 29th of 1999, which I just want to point out, it was one of those shitty 2-sided discs where like one side's widescreen and the other side's full screen. I hated those. Fucking hated those.
That was the shit then, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, we hate those now. Like, they suck. But back then we were transitioning from having just square TVs. So if you didn't get a widescreen version of a movie, like that was on like the DVD cases. Like that was something they advertised on the front. It was at the top. It would tell you like widescreen. Like now we get like a 4K plus Blu-ray. or how like digital was a big thing. They had to do plus digital.
Which sucked.
Then it was like plus your widescreen, because if not, your fucking nice widescreen TV was essentially useless because we had these giant bars on the side.
So, a 2-disc special edition DVD of Creepshow was released on October 22nd of 2007 with a bunch of extras. And on October 23rd, 2018, Scream Factory dropped their Blu-ray of the film, which consisted of a brand new 4K scan of the original camera negative. On June 27th of 2023, Scream Factory released a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray of the film featuring another brand new 2023 4K scan of the original camera negative, supervised and approved by Director of Photography Michael Gornick, and a new Dolby Atmos audio track. The film was adapted into an actual comic book of the same name soon after the film's release, soon followed by a TV show, which was named Tales from the Dark Side. Unfortunately, because of rights issues with Warner Brothers, the name Creepshow had to be dropped, which is fucking stupid.
I think it killed that show.
It did. I remember watching Tales from the Dark Side when I was a kid and thinking that this was a Tales from the Crypt ripoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It killed that show.
Yeah.
It's weird how Creepshow, the movie, was inspired from Tales from the Crypt, and then the movie did so good it paved the way for Tales from the Crypt to get its own show, and I think that that's proof in itself that that name change really killed Tales from the Dark Side.
Yeah, it was their name before Warner Brothers distributed it, but now somehow Warner Brothers gets to keep it, which is bullshit. Total
Yeah.
bull. I fucking hate big studios. Just do.
I mean, if we could just get rid of the fucking rights, like the naming rights and all that. I know we can't for legal issues and people getting fucked over, but God, man, it creates such a headache.
Yeah.
Like, imagine how much really good stuff that would be out that will never see the light of day. Scripts that we know that we've heard people talk about that were written and almost made and then canceled because of things like naming or character rights issues. It sucks.
Yeah. So a sequel, Creepshow 2, was released in 1987 and was once again based on Stephen King's short stories with a screenplay from Creepshow director George A. Romero. The film contained only 3 tales of horror due to budget constraints as opposed to the original 5 stories. Another sequel, Creepshow 3, featuring no involvement from Stephen King, George A. Romero, or anyone else involved in the production of the first 2 films, was released direct-to-video in 2007, which received mostly negative reviews. This film, in a fashion similar to the original Creepshow, features 5 short, darkly comedic horror stories. HD Films produced Creepshow Raw, a web series based upon the original film. The pilot episode for Creepshow Raw was wrapped on July 30th of 2008. The pilot was directed by Wilmer Valderrama and features Michael Madsen. No other episodes have been produced. Do you remember who the fuck Wilmer Valderrama was?
Is he that 70s show
Yes.
guy?
Yeah, and I don't like him.
Fez?
I never have liked him.
Not a fan of him, even in that show. I don't care for him.
Yeah, they did one episode of Creepshow Raw and never did anything else. Another Creepshow television series was announced in July of 2018, which was produced by Greg Nicotero and streamed on Shudder, with each episode of the series consisting of 2 stories, featuring actors such as Tobin Bell, Ali Lauder, Justin Long, and Anna Camp.
That one's good, man.
Yeah, that's the one on Shudder. It premiered on September 26th of 2019, running 4 seasons all the way to February of 2022. I looked it up and it was never canceled. It just kind of silently went away. I'm not really sure what happened.
Yeah, that's kind of getting canceled and
kind of
can't quietly canceled. Yeah, that was a good show, man. Like it had a decent enough budget. That is And I will stand by this. The closest thing to Tales from the Crypt that we've gotten since the original Tales from the Crypt got canceled after the 7th season.
Maybe it'll come back. I don't know. It wasn't officially axed, so we'll see. So ratings. Rotten Tom gave it a 65%. IMDb gave it a 6.8 out of 10. Letterboxd a 3.5 out of 5. But the Google average audience rating is a 4.5 out of 5. If you would like to watch this movie, you can currently find it for rent on Fandango, Google Play, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV for around $2.99 to $3.99. All right, are you ready to start going over these stories?
Yeah.
We got a lot of horror in store. All right, so we start out in this nice normal neighborhood, in this nice normal house, around what seems to be October. And this is where we meet angry middle-aged father Stan, his wife, and his young son Billy. And look who it is. Our favorite Dr. Detective himself, a.k.a. my favorite cop actor, Tom motherfucking Atkins.
Not playing a cop.
Not playing. He could be.
May have been a cop.
Totally could be a
Kinda
cop.
acts like a cop.
Or a doctor.
Like
Or both.
He would kind of seems like he would be a cop dad.
Yeah, if you listen to our Halloween 3 episode, we called him Dr. Detective Dan throughout the whole entire episode, because that's pretty much what he is. Also, Billy is played by fucking Joe Hill,
Yeah.
Stephen King's son.
Yeah.
It was wild.
As soon as I seen that, I was, obviously when I seen this a long time ago, I'd never seen Stephen King's son, but I'd seen him as an adult in so many interviews now. I was like, holy shit, that's his son as a kid.
Yep. And we immediately hear Stan chewing Billy out over his horror comic books, which we see is titled Creepshow. I love how Billy calls him out about having porno under his bed. That's great.
Good shit. Good comeback.
Yeah, so Stan, seems like he's a very angry dad, and he's probably an angry husband as well. And I suspect that he's slapped his wife so hard one night, her fucking lips fell off, because this lady's got the thinnest lips I ever seen. She ain't got no fucking lips.
I didn't pick up on the paper thin lips.
He beat his wife's lips off.
This guy has definitely beat his wife a time or two.
For sure.
And his kid.
Yep.
This guy looks like he hates his family.
He's stressed out from the life of a doctor detective. It's hard out there.
Must be.
He's cheating on his wife.
Yeah.
He's 100. Tom Atkins.
This guy's
ladies' man.
So mad that he's not fucking his side chick right now, and he's having to parent.
Yep.
He this is why God made fathers. to make their family's life miserable.
Yeah. So Stan then takes the comic book from Billy, and he tells him the next time that he catches him with one, he won't be able to sit for a week. He then takes the book downstairs and throws it in the trash. The mom then looks at Billy. She gives him a look like you're going to get both our asses beat.
Keep your fucking mouth shut, kid. I can't take another hit to the face.
I've only got so much lips left to lose. So after he comes back from the trash can, his wife starts asking if he thinks he might have went a little hard on Billy, which he, of course, disagrees, and he says that's why God made fathers. We then cut back upstairs where we see a very angry Billy sitting in his bed as he tells his dad he hopes he rots in hell.
Man, I didn't notice any other time I've ever seen this movie. So I watched this, as you watched it as well, on the Scream Factory more recent edition, their 4K scanned steelbook where they redid the audio too. I'd never noticed that you can faintly hear the creeps laugh out in the dark when he throws the comic book in the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if, I don't remember hearing that before when I seen it before when I was younger. I wonder if it's just I don't remember it, or if with them upgrading the sound, it's something that you can hear better now.
I don't know.
It's still very faint.
It's been a really long time since I've seen this, actually. So he then hears a laugh coming outside his window, and when he turns and looks, he smiles real big because he sees the skeleton from the cover of the comic book has now come alive and is waving at him. One, Billy's a little fucked up because that would have scared the shit out of me at his age. And two, this skeleton looks awesome.
Yeah, I don't even know if you call this a skeleton. This is like a decomposed corpse.
It's awesome looking.
It is awesome looking. Side note, I seen some Tom Savini screen tests of this. It's just Tom Savini, like old footage he had put up from tests they did on this thing. And we don't get to see this thing enough in this movie.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that it was able to do was fucking awesome. Especially considering like this was the I think they've shot this in 81.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when you see the Crypt Keeper in the 90s and all the facial movements and stuff, and you're like, wow, that's amazing for the 90s. Well, this was 10 years prior, and it, like, they literally are telling the guys controlling it, like, okay, make them smile bigger. We want an open mouth smile. We want an angry look. We want, like, eyes squinted. It looks fucking awesome. And I will always argue that we do not get enough of creep, I guess you would call him, creep, in the fucking movie. Because you don't really get to see enough of that in the movie. Like, we only get to really see him good this one shot.
Yeah.
And I think that they should have found a way to put him on screen longer because he is fucking super scary looking. He has stood the test of time, and he can do some shit that they don't even put in the movie.
So after that, the skeleton then turns animated, where he takes us to the trash can, opens the lid, where we see the book. And this is where we get our title card, Creepshow. And we get this awesome fucking intro.
Yeah, so with the Tales from the Crypt, obviously they were able to use the actual like stories from Tales from the Crypt. Creepshow, there was never a comic book Creepshow. So they had to make these because they wanted to do these blended intros like this straight from the magazine into what Tales from the Crypt is famous for. Every episode, how they blend the fucking shot from the comic book into the actual story. They were trying to figure out a way to do that, and they had made these comics, and then they had already shot the stories and the freeze frames, so they made sure to put those in the comics, and the rest they just drew the stories along with. So they made an actual comic book. It was like, I think he said 6 or 8 pages that they had, so they just bought another comic book and put those pages in it so it didn't look so thin. But they were trying to figure out how to get this thing to land in the trash can and flip straight to the page that it needed to be, and then flip straight to the page it needed to be for each story. And that's when they came up with the idea to do the animation.
Oh.
And that's why I said the idea for the animation wasn't originally like that. That wasn't the original plan. And that's when they ended up animating everything. And I think it was a really good idea because I think it gives it a really cool feel to the movie.
Yeah. So after some really cool, creepy animations and some of the credits, we then get to our first story of the night, Father's Day. So we immediately meet our 4 main characters of this story who are sitting inside a very fancy, very old estate. First, we have the old rich aunt Sylvia, who really likes cigarettes. Then we have her young attractive niece, Cass. Next, we have Cass's new husband, Hank. And finally, Cass's stuck-up rich brother and Sylvia's nephew, Richard.
This is Rabbit Grannies.
Yes, it is. Yeah, good point. And we find out that the reason that these 4 are all here today is because every year on this exact date, at this exact time, they wait for their oldest aunt Belinda to show up to celebrate the day that she murdered her father, who apparently was a big old piece of shit. And when she murdered him, they all pretty much got to split his huge fortune. Now, Cass's husband Hank doesn't really know the whole story of Belinda killing her dad, so this is where Sylvia begins to tell him the details of that day. So apparently, great aunt Belinda dad, Nathan Gratham, was very old, very mean, and very rich, and he constantly accused his family of being a bunch of dirty vultures who just wanted to get his hands on his money. I feel like that's every rich person's kids, though. Like, there's so many adult children that's murdered their parents for money. It's very common. So we then find out that old Nathan eventually had a stroke, and this caused Belinda to have to nurse him back to health. But as he began getting better, Belinda met a new man, to which she fell in love with. So once she and this new man's relationship started to get very serious, Nathan got very jealous and upset, where he eventually had the man killed in a supposed hunting accident. Well, unfortunately, this was the last straw for Belinda, where she then kind of had a mental breakdown, grabbed a marble ashtray, and bashed Nathan's head in, killing him. And we see here, while they are telling the story, Cass holds up the ashtray. So this family has actually kept the murder weapon.
Yeah. Yeah, so for one, I didn't really catch this until I rewatched it with the captions on, but Sylvia is the one who covers up the murder for her.
Yeah, we actually
Yeah.
find this out a little later on.
Yeah, so she obviously kept the ashtray when she covered everything up. And she wanted to get paid. She didn't want no murder trial and
Yeah.
holding up no money. They wanted to get fucking paid. But I assume he kills her boyfriend because he wants her to have more time to take care of him,
Yeah.
because she's the only one that does take care of him. I don't know why his rich ass didn't just pay a bunch of people to take care of him. Like, if he wanted that much attention,
He's a
dude's
bastard.
fucking filthy rich.
Just a bastard.
But yeah, that's my next point. He is a bastard, so it's very important to the story here. He's yelling for Father's Day cake when she kills him, and he is, like, telling her, like, "You stupid fucking bitch, like, get in here, I want my cake now, he calls her a fucking whore. Like, the way he talks to her, I've had no problem with her beating his head in with the ashtray.
Yeah.
He is a fucking dick.
So after this, we then see Belinda pull up in her car, very obviously drunk, stumbling and smoking a black and mild, where she immediately heads to the family cemetery. And this is where we get the flashback of what actually happened that fateful day 7 years ago. And basically what we see here is Belinda personally making her dad's Father's Day cake from scratch, but as she is attempting to put the icing on, we see him sitting in the dining room, slamming his cane on the chair repeatedly as he screams, "You dirty bitch, where's my cake?" I don't blame her for killing him, like freaking out, because the fucking sound of the cane on the chair, it drove me nuts watching the movie. I can't imagine listening to that shit in real life.
Just the way he's talking to her, man, I don't fucking... You deserve to get your head fucking bashed in. If you got the balls to talk to somebody like that, you probably shouldn't be an old-ass man who can't fight back.
So, yeah, he's in there calling Belinda a bitch and telling her that she better get him his fucking cake. And finally, Belinda has had enough as she stops making the cake, walks out there, picks up the ashtray, and yells Happy Father's Day as she bashes him in the head. We then see Nathan go flying out of his chair, landing on the ground, where we see his head now covered in blood. So, back to present day. We then see Belinda sitting in front of her father's tombstone as she apologizes but gives her reasoning for killing Nathan. So, after Belinda calms down a bit, she is suddenly shocked when a zombie hand bursts out of the ground, followed by the decayed body of her father climbing out of his grave to ask where his cake is. He then fully climbs out and pins her to the ground as he begins strangling her, which is the end of dear old great aunt Belinda. I love this scene. I love the zombie. He looks fucking awesome. Even his voice is creepy. He's one of my favorite effects from the movie, is a zombie.
Yeah, he looked incredible. Bro, that shit would have killed me from a heart attack. Like, he wouldn't have had time to strangle me to death. I would have fucking dropped goddamn dead right there.
100%.
Really, really good shit. They do one thing that's really cool if you notice on all the kills or climaxes of each story. And this particular one, when he comes after her, they add this red light in the background. And this is the beginning of, if you pay attention, they use this really good comic book color palette.
Yeah.
And they don't do it throughout the regular shooting of the movie. They only do it during the horror scenes. And it gives the movie a really interesting dynamic. But it's a really cool added touch. And like I said earlier, his fucking makeup, like, this shit needed to be seen in 4K because it looks incredible.
Yeah, it does. So meanwhile, back in the house, we see everyone kind of just sitting around, drinking, dancing, and waiting on Aunt Belinda, when finally Cass's husband Hank decides to go outside to have a smoke and look for her. While looking for her in the cemetery, Hank trips and falls in Nathan's former grave. This fucking cemetery looks awesome, especially with like they have like these blue lights randomly placed all over, and these all the gravestones are like tall gravestones. 10 out of 10 would want to be buried here.
Yeah, the sets in this movie are great. This is one of the better ones. And this, I think I was making this point earlier, and I got sidetracked. But that 90s horror feel, like when you see the cemeteries and there's just way too much fog, and like just crazy like tall gravestones and just creepy noises, and just I love that. It's just, it gives you that Halloween vibe so hard. It's definitely something that we don't see as much nowadays in movies. They kind of tone it down and make it a little more realistic. But I love the amped up sets like this, man.
Yeah, it's good.
Like, pump the fog in. Give us the fucking blue lights. Give us the creepy noises. I love it, man. I loved every bit of this set.
So while laying in the grave, Hank looks up to discover that the top half of Nathan's solid stone grave marker seems to be sliding towards his head. And as he goes to get out, he grabs Belinda's dead hand, which has been covered up by dirt. This, of course, freaks him out, but before he can really react, he looks up to spot Zombie Nathan standing there using some kind of force powers to move the grave marker, which ends up falling and crushing Hank's head.
Bro, this dude is so rich he became the Sith Lord in death. Like
Something. He's got Star Wars powers for sure.
He is fucking so rich that he was able to become a Sith. And there's only 2 Sith at a time, so.
So after Hank is killed, we then see Zombie Nathan chuckle and then turn around and head for the house, saying in his super creepy voice, "Where's my cake? It's mine, and I want it."
His dark Catheus.
So after Cass finishes up her Soul Train audition here, we see that her brother, and her aunt are all sitting around now wondering just where the hell Belinda and Hank are. And after a bit of a debate, we see Sylvia volunteer to go out to the cemetery to find them. But as Sylvia enters the kitchen to speak with the maid before she heads out, she finds that the lights are all off, there is no maid to be found, and there are now muddy footprints on the floor. She pretty quickly finds the maid's body, and as she freaks out and goes to run, she is cut off by Zombie Nathan, who wants his goddamn cake. He then grabs Sylvia's head and he immediately snaps her neck.
Bro, if Zombie Nathan would quit killing everybody he runs into, I'm sure somebody would be happy to get him a fucking cake.
You think if you just baked him a cake, he would just go away?
Apparently, that's what he wants, is some cake.
And
bro,
revenge.
I would literally go buy this dude every cake at the fucking store if it meant him not killing me.
Yeah.
Like, just quit killing everybody. You don't even give anybody a chance to get you any cake.
We're about to see that he says fuck it and makes his own cake.
Bro, when he died, he already had a cake made and baked for him. And he still couldn't shut the fuck up.
So now, Belinda, Hank, Sylvia, and the maid are all missing, which has totally freaked Cass out, where she begs her brother Richard to go find them. And after a bit of back and forth, they both decide to go looking, but right as they enter the kitchen, they run right into Zombie Nathan, who says, "It's Father's Day and I got my cake." And as they look down to see what he is holding, they see it is Sylvia's decapitated head on a silver platter with cake icing covering her hair and lit candles on top. And that is the end of our first story.
Fantastic ending to the story. I don't think you could have ended the first story any better.
It was a good first story. It's a good start.
Yeah, good
Excellent.
start, awesome finish. Him coming through the door with Sylvia's head was awesome on many different levels. For one, Sylvia's head looked fucking fantastic. It looked so great because it was her head. They had her put her head through
Yeah.
the platter. But this is the closest that we see his face. Him talking, like you said, sounds super creepy. We get a close-up of his face. He looks super creepy. And they get this, they do the red and blue lighting in the background on this scene. 10 out of 10 on the entire ending of this. Special effects, makeup, fucking lighting. Awesome ending to the first story.
So, after a bit of comic book page turns, we then land on our next story, which is called The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, which stars the man himself, Stephen King. So, we start out watching a middle-aged farmer, Jordy Verrill, standing outside of his house on his farm at night, where he sees a meteorite fly through the sky and land on his property. So this meteor pretty much lands in his front yard, and he runs over like super excited about it, and as he kind of starts poking it, we see it begin to change a couple different colors. So he then touches it where it immediately burns the tips of his two fingers, and this is where he starts to daydream about how much money the local college is going to give him for this meteorite. And this is where we find out that in hopes of paying off his bank loan, he plans on demanding a whopping $200 for this space rock.
Yeah, I love that. Like, he starts daydreaming about money, and you think it's gonna be like his early retirement, and then he's like $200
And not a
is what he
cent
wants.
less.
And it's like even in today's adjusted numbers, that's not very
No.
much money at all. Also, why would you touch this thing? My first thought, as soon as I seen this, would be it could possibly be one of those frozen chunks of shit from a plane.
I thought
from
about
Joe
this
Dirt.
same thing. Same
I
fucking thing.
I will never not see a meteor and think that it may be a frozen chunk of shit that fell from a plane. And I don't even know if that's a real thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
But forever, Joe Dirt will live in my mind.
Seems plausible.
To not touch space rocks or space shit.
So apparently, Jordy here must have flunked every science class he ever had because he decides to cool the extremely hot meteor off by throwing a bucket of cold water onto it, which immediately causes it to break in two. And it is at this point where he notices that the two fingertips he touched the rock with now have a bunch of white spots on them. I love the glow in the dark. It's like blue glow in the dark liquid inside of it. It's kind of like lava lamp shit or something.
It's very comic book.
It's awesome.
A comic book space alien meteor.
So we then see Jordy pour out the blue liquid and place the two broken rocks in a bucket. And when he does this, he gets the liquid on his hands, which he immediately begins to wipe all over his overalls, which will become very important soon. Jordy then places the bucket on the porch and heads inside of his house to watch some good old black and white wrestling on his super old TV. And this house is fucking gross. I hate it. I hate the inside of his house. It just gives me the creeps.
I once again love this set though. The house set and the outside. Not as much the set, but how they progressed the set.
Yeah, I can see that. So while watching TV, we see that outside where the meteor crashed has begun to sprout this neon green grass that leads a trail all the way back to Jordy's front door. So pretty much wherever this meteor juice dripped has started to grow this extremely aggressive grass. And after a while, Jordy notices that his fingertips have started to grow this grass, which of course freaks him out, where he then goes to call a doctor. But before he finishes dialing the number, he has another daydream where the doctor says they gotta amputate the fingers, causing him to slam the phone down. I assumed you noticed, but the doctor is the same guy as the college professor.
Hmm.
Also, I can't remember if it's the college professor or the doctor's office, but the ashtray from the very first story is in there. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that or notice that. I did, however, notice that right after he has this daydream about getting his fingers cut off, which I would be probably okay with him cutting my fingers off if it was
Yeah.
growing this thing.
Yeah.
But he immediately licks his 2 fingers after that. And
Yep.
it was like, why in the fuck? Like, what explanation could you possibly give to think that that was a fucking good idea?
He's not that smart.
Even a dumb man
No.
seems like they would know not to lick a pile of shit. And if you got this gross shit growing out of your finger to the point where you're gonna call the doctor and you think they might amputate it, you might not want to put it in your fucking mouth.
So we then jump ahead a few hours where we now see that this green grass has spread all over the place. We see it pretty much all over the front yard. It has begun to grow on the car, on his house, and when we head inside, we see that it has begun to grow on Jordy himself, including his skin and tongue, specifically where he touched himself after getting the meteorite juice on him. I do want to point out something that I thought was pretty cool. So, Stephen King didn't want to come out to Pittsburgh by himself to film this. So, he brought his son, Joe Hill, who we see in the beginning. And while Stephen filmed this part of the movie, which took like 2 weeks, Tom Savini watched his son for him, which means little Joe Hill got to spend weeks hanging out with one of the best special effects guys ever in his effect shop.
Yeah.
What a lucky bastard.
Bro, we've talked about this before, but on any movie Tom Savini's in, he does everything. Like, he doesn't just do
including
effects.
babysitter.
He's directed, like, he's done all types of stuff, and now we can add a new one to the list. He now babysits
Yep.
the other actors and the writer of the movie's son while they're filming. Like, the dude will literally, he would probably walk your dog for you.
Yeah.
If it was needed to make the movie a better movie, he would do it. Also, like, this guy has an extremely fast-growing, extremely resilient species of, like, fungus or plant from space. If you could quit touching your fucking self and your face and your clothes, you probably would have your retirement by selling this thing to a college. I mean, this thing might contain the fucking cure for cancer, or the key to eternal life. I mean, it just survived burning up in the atmosphere. If he could just stop being dumb and touching everything, he's probably got something good on his hands.
So after discovering that his front yard pretty much looks like a fucking swamp now, Jordy goes into his nasty-ass kitchen and makes himself the biggest screwdriver I have ever seen, which causes him to get pretty drunk, which causes him to pass out for a while. He then wakes up and sees that it is now morning time and thinking that maybe this was all a nightmare. But he instantly gets freaked out when he realizes that not only was this not a dream, but also the green grass has now begun to take over his living room. We also see here that about 40% of Jordy's body is now covered in green, mossy-looking grass, including his dick and balls, which puts him in even more of a panic.
His girthy
His
dick and balls.
Very thick cock.
Yeah. This reminds me of the cover of Stay Out of the Basement from Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
what the dad turns into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So now that he's really freaking out, he decides that maybe he should jump into the bath and see if he can wash all this shit off, which, you know, I personally don't think that's a bad idea. I would think something similar.
No. You would not want to soak in a tub with all this shit and plants need water. This shit started from him throwing water on it. So soaking yourself in water is an awful idea.
I wouldn't soak myself. I would try to scrub it off me. That's what I would think.
Yeah, maybe start with like your razors or your shavers. Try to get as much of it off, and then maybe like a shower, maybe. But you don't want to soak in a tub.
So we find out that Jordy's dead father does not agree with me, as he suddenly appears in Jordy's bathroom mirror. This part confuses me a lot. We kind of went from like a sci-fi horror story to a ghost. But then I remembered Maximum Overdrive and the cocaine and the alcohol, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's Stephen King in the 80s, so this makes sense. So his ghost dad pops up in the mirror, and he's like, don't you get into the water? And as Jordy turns around, he notices that the water is also kind of glowing green, which means that the space juice has now soaked into his water supply, meaning if he gets in the tub, he is now going to submerge his whole body in meteorite cum. And it is at this point where Jordy realizes that he is pretty much already a goner, and all of this grass stuff that's growing out of his body is making him itch really bad. So he decides, fuck it, I'm getting in the water to get some relief before I go. So after that, we then jump to the next morning where we see this jungle has pretty much taken over the inside of Jordy's house. Some of these plants look kind of like space weed plants.
Yeah,
growing some supernova kush.
It's interesting because it's definitely not all the same plant. Some of it looks like a grass, some of it looks like a fungus, and some of it looks like actual like plants. I'm telling you, man, one of these had the cure for eternal life in it. He could have been so rich, but he just couldn't stop touching himself. Apparently his dick at some point too.
Yeah, he scratched his balls and
with his fungusy fingers.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
and then put him in his mouth.
Yeah, just awful.
It's so
idea.
girthy, he had to adjust it.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
and then taste the girth off of his fingers. Yeah, just the fucking set on this thing looks absolutely incredible. Like the amount of time they spent coming in and putting plants, and it's just the green pops so good.
It
too. It's
looks
like
great.
such a comic book style. And I know this movie was shot in the early 80s, but it just reminds me of the 90s so much because it has that bright, just comic book style of Tales from the Crypt. But yeah, the dude literally turned into a mix of the Grinch, the Jolly Green Giant, and the dad from fucking Stay Out of the Basement.
Yeah. So while getting these different shots of the house covered in these plants, we then settle on this one bush-looking thing that is on the ground by the door. And after a few seconds, we start to see the bush move, and this is where we discover that this is Jordy now.
This is George Bush.
He kind of looks to me like the giant weed plant from Scary Movie 2. So once he starts to move around a little bit, he ends up finding the corner of the room where his shotgun lays. He then points the barrel right at his face and begs God that just this one time may he have good luck. He then pulls the trigger and blows his grassy head off, killing himself. We then start to see shots of Jordy's property where we see the thick green plants have spread everywhere as we hear the announcer on the TV say that there's going to be lots of rain in the next 30 days. We then get a shot of the road where we see a sign for Boston, Portland, and Castle Rock as the neon green grass reaches as far as the eye can see. And that is the end of the Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill. Fun fact, in case you didn't know, Castle Rock is a fictional town in Maine created by Stephen King. It first appeared in the book The Dead Zone, which only came out about a year before this movie was filmed, and was also included in the book Cujo, which came out in 1981, the same year this was filmed. So this is kind of the beginning of Castle Rock, which become a very big thing.
So yeah, there's a show, Castle Rock,
Yep.
and it was a fucking fantastic show centered around Stephen King books.
Fuck you, Hulu, for canceling it.
Yeah, it was a great show, like 10 out of 10 show, and super bummed that that didn't continue on. But yeah, the idea of like plants or fungus taking over your body like a parasite, like it's not a new idea. It's been done before. It's been written before in different ways. It's definitely horrifying every time it's told. Like your body, like, I remember a kid reading Stay Out of the Basement, just, like, imagining that cover where his, like, dad's arm has turned into a full plant, and it's just it's really horrifying, man, 'cause
Well,
we do have parasites, and we do have a lot of plants.
But there was the show,
Yeah.
too, that showed the dad, like, as a plant. Kind
Yeah,
of, yeah.
yeah.
So it is now time for our third story of the night, which is titled Something to Tide You Over. So we start off by seeing a knock on the door awaken Harry Wentworth, who is peacefully asleep on the couch. And by the looks of his home, he seems to be a pretty successful bachelor. So Harry gets up and he goes over to open the door, and we see that he's got one of those little chains on the door that stops it from opening all the way. And as he's looking through the little space of the door and the door frame, he sees an older, gray haired man staring him in the face with a smirk. And we can tell by Harry's reaction that he knows this guy. Well, he at least knows of this guy. And he basically tries to tell him to fuck off, but the older man, who we find out is named Richard, says, "Listen very carefully. Unless you let me in to talk, something very nasty is going to happen to Becky." So once he comes inside, we find out that Richard is Becky's husband, and Harry and Becky have been having an affair for quite some time. And obviously, Richard has found out. So after a bit of back and forth, Harry finally asks where the fuck Becky is, and Richard pulls out a tape recorder in his play, informing Harry to just listen. And what we hear is Becky crying and sobbing, begging Harry to please come and help her. So, of course, Harry starts begging Richard to tell him what he's done with Becky, and Richard says that if you want to know, you have to come with me, and we have to get there by 11 o'clock, or it's going to be real bad for Becky. So we then see Richard and Harry riding in a Jeep together with a little comic book strip at the top of the screen that says, "On a road near a shore." So they are obviously heading to the beach, which would be absolute torture for me. I hate the fucking beach. I don't know if I've talked about it on the show, but I fucking hate the beach.
Yeah, this guy makes a comment when they're talking about, divorce and splitting things up, and he's like, "I always keep what is mine. There is no exception to that rule." They were talking about splitting up stuff, but clearly he was talking about his wife.
Yeah.
So you
Oh,
should
yeah.
have known you were in some trouble at
Oh,
that
yeah.
point. But the fact that a guy is confronting you about fucking his wife while at the same time calmly working on your TV for you just makes it that much more terrifying. Like, when somebody's that calm,
Bad
it
things are
showed up
coming.
there with a
Yeah.
gun, like, they're there to kidnap you, but they're that calm and happy, like, that's like mob boss shit.
Well,
Nothing good is coming from this.
another thing too is Richard was able to hold it together without flinching when Harry literally looks at him and says, "Well, you should be thanking us."
Yeah.
I would have killed him.
Well,
I would have been like, "Well, you're gonna die now."
the fact that the guy came in and he started fucking with the TV and he's being this calm and he's there kidnapping you, that tells you that the guy is very calculated in
Yep.
his decision making, and he is not doing this out of, like, he immediately found out and he came over there to fight you. Like, this dude has came up with a plan, and that is 10 times scarier than somebody showing up at your door wanting to fight.
So the whole time all this is going on, we see Harry being super serious and very concerned, but Richard is acting very calm, cool, and even cracking jokes. So the two then arrive at a private beach called Comfort Point with a security gate, cameras everywhere, and this big house on it, which we will find out a little later on that Richard owns this whole entire place. It is very private. So Richard drives down by the water and parks the Jeep, and when they get out, Harry spots this already dug hole with a shovel down by the water. Now, Harry thinks that this is where Becky is buried, so he immediately takes off running to look inside of this hole, and while he is doing this, we see Richard pull a pistol from a leg holster. Now, once Harry reaches the hole, he quickly realizes that there's nothing inside of it, which causes him to get angry. And when he turns around to hit Richard with the shovel, he notices Richard is pointing the gun at him, which changes Harry's attitude real quick.
Yeah. He just that light bulb moment where he realized that hole is for him.
Yep. So Richard then tells Harry that if he doesn't get down into that hole, he's going to be forced to shoot him, which Harry, after thinking about it for a bit, then climbs down. Next, he orders him to begin pulling the sand back in, but Harry tells him to just shoot him because he refuses to bury himself alive. And Richard says, No. I don't want to bury you alive. I just want to bury most of you. And if you do this, then I will finally let you see Becky. There is no motherfucking way in hell that I would have, one, even got into the car with this guy. Two, there's no way I'm getting in the hole. You might as well shoot me.
Yeah,
Just shoot me. I'm not getting in the hole. I don't care. I'd be like, you know what? I'd look him right in the eyes and say, fuck Becky. Her pussy wasn't that good anyway.
Yeah, he may have got me to the beach, but when I seen the hole was dug, like I wouldn't even have flinched. I would have been like, you were going to shoot me to get me in that hole.
Yeah.
Like I am going to be a dead body that you were putting in that hole because I am not going to be buried alive.
Nope.
Like there's no fuck. That'd be my first thought. This guy's gonna bury me alive.
Yeah.
No fucking way. Just fucking shoot me.
So we then fast forward a little bit where we now see Harry has buried himself in sand up to his chin. So about 90 to 95% of his body is buried in the sand, meaning he can't move except for his mouth and eyes. So now that Harry is incapacitated, we then see Richard pull out a TV, a camera on a stand, and a bunch of wires. And once he gets it all set up, he turns on the TV, leans back, and him and Harry watch the screen, which shows us Becky, who is also buried in a hole on the beach with just her head above the sand. But this time, we see that the tide has begun to come in and is slowly starting to drown her, which is a super fucked up way to kill somebody. It's kind of Jigsaw, like where you kill them without actually killing them. They kind of kill themselves.
Take it as like that's some like mob bullshit. Like you are going to like this is you're being waterboarded and then like fucking you're gonna eventually drown anyway. But you literally take the guy who was fucking your wife and you make him watch her drown while he's about to go through the same fate. And you sit there like it's a fucking picnic and like laugh and joke. Like that's some mob boss shit, man. And I love how this guy tries to offer this dude who owns like this whole peninsula money.
Some money.
Yeah. Like this dude don't give a fuck about your money.
He owns what essentially looks like an island.
Yeah. This dude's like rich as fuck. The only reason I put peninsula and not island is because they didn't like have to take a bridge to get there or a boat. But yeah, this dude is balling out of control. He doesn't need your money.
Nope. I would assume he made all his money in TVs, which, I could see that like back then TVs were fucking expensive.
Yeah.
So, of course, Harry starts freaking out and yelling Becky's name, but Richard tells him that it is no use because he buried Becky way down on the other side of the beach. And it is at this point where Richard basically tells him that they are both probably going to die and he's going to record all of this for his home movies. And needless to say, Harry is speechless at this idea, which, I don't blame him. This would be an absolute nightmare. So after this, the tide starts coming in, and then we see Richard tell Harry goodbye as he hops back in his Jeep and drives off, leaving the TV and the camera behind. So after this, we then see Richard head back to his very fancy beach house, where he immediately begins watching a wall of monitors that is displaying both Harry and Becky slowly being drowned by the ocean. And he's fucking stoked by this. He's having a ball.
Yeah, I love how he keeps telling him, like, "No, you just gotta be calm and hold your breath." They end up, like, 2 foot underwater.
Yeah,
Like, there's no holding your
there's
breath.
no escaping this.
Like, yeah, let me hold my breath for the next 2 hours until the tide goes back down.
So, after a few hours, we then see that both Harry and Becky are both dead. Richard then goes out to collect the TV and the cables from the beach, where he realizes that both of their bodies have been washed out to sea.
Yeah, so, quick question here. There is significance in this bucket, and they zoom in on it. They make it a point to show it a couple times when he's buried, when he first gets buried there, before he's even watching Becca get buried or drowned on the monitors. I thought he was gonna try to use the bucket to, like, put over his fucking head or something, I don't know, but they make it a point to show this bucket, and then he goes back out the next day and he picks up the bucket. Now, do you know what the significance of the bucket was?
No idea. There was a time where I thought that there was something in the bucket. Like when he goes back and the bucket's halfway buried after the tide goes back out. I thought there was going to be some significant point to the bucket, but there was not that I could tell.
So my only thing that I could come up with the bucket is that the bucket is showing us that his theory of the current washing the bodies away is wrong. It can't be right, because if there was any type of current, the bucket would have went with the current. So the fact that their bodies are gone and the bucket's still there tells us as the viewer that they did not get washed away by the sea.
Well, the only thing I would say that's an issue with is we do see later on, they're like covered in seaweed.
No, they die. They die underwater.
Yeah.
But he comes back the next day when the tide goes down
yeah, I know.
to collect the bodies to get rid of the evidence. And he kind of panics for a second. He's like, no, their bodies just got washed away in the sea.
But you're saying the
Like,
bucket's saying that they didn't get washed away.
yeah, telling us, the viewer,
Yeah.
that they obviously died and got moved themselves in a creep show world.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I'm saying how would they be covered in seaweed if they weren't washed out to sea?
Because seaweed washes up all the time on the shores. Like, you go to the beach, you go to Folly Beach, and there's goddamn seaweed that you can see where high tide was the night before every day, based off of how much seaweed and those little, like, stick things, how many of them's washed up. Like, you can literally
maybe.
see the line.
I have no theories about the bucket. No clue. So later that night, we see Richard kicking back having an alcoholic beverage while watching some TV. And I don't know if you spotted it, but sitting right next to him is the marble ashtray that Belinda used to kill her father with.
The popular ashtray.
It is, mass produced, I guess. So anyway, after he gets done hanging out, he decides to hop in the shower. And when he heads into the bathroom and begins undressing, we see his front door open and the zombified remains of both Harry and Becky come stumbling in the house. They do not look as good as Nathan's zombie, but they do look pretty good. Pretty creepy. So as these zombies slog through this fancy beach house, they must be pretty clumsy because they start knocking shit over, and Richard pretty quickly hears them and gets out of the shower, grabbing his gun. Now, Richard thinks that Harry and Becky must have survived and they have come back for revenge. So when he swings open the bathroom door with his gun and he sees them looking very zombie-like, he is shocked. Which I would be too, because they look like they aged about 200 years in a few hours. Becky looks like fucking Emperor Palpatine.
They are there to scare. Let's put it like that. They're like, we must use the dark side to age ourselves. We must force lightning each other. We gotta scare the fuck out of this guy.
Yeah, they look bad.
Yeah,
They look unrecognizable.
they have definitely not just been in the water for a day.
It was the evil.
Slightly bloated.
It was the evil and the revenge that made them, that took their looks away.
Yeah, they look fucking great. I think they look fucking horrifying.
They
Like,
do. I like
I
the Nathan zombie better, but it's kind of a different kind of
yeah, I
zombie.
like Nathan Zombie better too, but for sea zombies,
Sea
because
zombies,
they
yeah.
came out of the water, they got to look a little different. I like that they made them look a little different. It was very, like I said, in that comic book style, almost exaggerated. I loved it, man. Thought it was good. They get shot and like there's no more blood. It's just like nasty, dirty seawater that comes out of them. Like it's gross and fucking awesome looking.
So they start going after Richard, who then holds up the gun, smiles real big, and fires a round right into Becky's forehead, which causes this like black blood to begin running down her face. I will give him credit. He tried to use zombie rules right off the bat, because he goes straight for the headshot. And we always say, when in doubt, go with zombie rules. Unfortunately, it did not work this time. So he fires a shot into Becky's head. It does nothing, which totally wipes the smirk off his face. He then fires another shot, hitting Harry right in the shoulder, but it also does nothing as they just continue to walk towards him, telling him they got a nice hole on the beach already dug for him. Richard then fires all the bullets he has left in the gun, but it pretty quickly goes empty, and he then realizes at this point that he is fucked. He then turns around and runs back into the bathroom, locking the door behind him, and just as he breathes a sigh of relief, he turns around only to find the two zombies now standing in the room, which literally causes him to go mad with fear. So it seems like to me, we got some kind of zombie ghost hybrid here.
Yeah, I was about to say, so the reason that I think that didn't work is because these aren't zombies.
No.
These are paranormal ghosts. They're bent on revenge, and that's it.
In zombie form.
And once he's dead, they're gone. They don't live by zombie rules.
Yep.
You can't kill a ghost. They originally wasn't supposed to be on the other side of the door. So he was supposed to slam the door, and Becca's arm was supposed to get stuck in there, and it was supposed to literally break off. And then the zombie ham was supposed to start crawling around at him.
Oh, that'd been cooler.
And so they did the test for it. The other special effects guy, the other head special effects guy that worked with Tom Savini, because there were so many effects, they obviously couldn't just have one team on it. But they did it. They built the armature for it. They did it in stop motion. They did a bunch of tests. They even show when they're talking about the effects on the special features, like some of the stop motion tests they did for it. They ended up not using it because it was cheaper for them to just write it where he turned around and it was behind them, and they thought it was when they shot it, they're like, okay, this works. It's a really good scare for the end of it anyway. But interesting enough, that stop motion work on that hand crawling got that special effects guy a bunch of work for Evil Dead 2.
Oh, cool. Good for him.
It wasn't all in vain.
So they then start taunting him by saying, hold your breath over and over again, as we see Richard laughing and crying hysterically as he descends into madness. We then jump back to the beach where we see Richard is now buried up to his chin in sand, where he begins screaming, I can hold my breath for a long time, when suddenly the first wave washes over his face. And that is the end of Richard and this story.
Dude's a cocky, man. He's that money has really got him. He's got that, like Kanye West got all that money just so long and just loses it. He's like, I can hold my breath for 3 hours. I can do it. I'm rich.
Yeah, that was not the original ending to the story. I will tell you the original ending at the end of the episode, but it is way better. And I think they should have went with that one, but we'll get to that. So after that, we jump back to the animated comic book, which is still sitting in the trash can when suddenly the storm picks it up, blowing the book into the street, where we see the pages flip open, landing on a page with the title to our next story, which is called The Crate. So we immediately jump to Horlicks University, where we meet an older man named Mike, who is, according to Jigsaw, working an honorable profession. I say janitor for the school. We finally got another movie with a janitor.
Very, very honorable profession.
Yep. And we see him flip a quarter into the air, but when it comes back down, he misses it, where it then lands on the floor and rolls underneath the stairs, where we see a metal cage-like door. Considering this is his last quarter for the Coke machine, he then attempts to get it back when he suddenly notices a large, old wooden crate behind the door. And what makes this interesting is we see printed on the side of the box, Arctic Expedition, June 19th, 1834. We then quickly jump to a party at one of the college professor's house where we meet our main characters. First, we have Henry Northrup, who is a very shy, quiet, low-confidence college professor, followed by his wife, Wilma Northrup, who is the total opposite. As we quickly see, she is a loud, obnoxious, talkative, and brash lady. And finally, Henry's best friend and fellow professor, Dexter Stanley, who is the head of the zoology department at the college. So we see at this party that Wilma is kind of a loudmouth drunk who continuously puts her husband down in front of other guests, cuts people off in conversations, and is very pushy. And you can tell two things here. One, that people at the party are trying to avoid her, and two, Henry is very embarrassed by her, but he doesn't have the balls to stand up to his wife. You can tell everybody hates this bitch.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed by her, and this is a movie made in the 80s, and I'm not even married to her.
I'm surprised, Henry got invited because this is the couple that, nobody, every time you're having a party, you're like, don't tell so-and-so.
And she just drinks too much every time she goes anywhere.
Yeah, and she's just you can't talk to her, she cuts you off,
Very rude.
Yeah. Now, Wilma notices something very small but becomes very important at this party. While talking shit about someone else, she looks over and sees Dexter talking to a nice-looking young woman, and after a brief conversation, the woman then smiles as she leaves the party. Now, Wilma doesn't say anything about this, but she does display a little smirk before going to find someone else to annoy. And the reason I point this out is because it will become important towards the end of the story.
Bro, Professor Stanley just got game, man. Or Riz, as they call it these days. He's out here slaying the pink dragon.
He's talking to them college girls. So Henry also sees this conversation where he makes a joke to his friend Dexter about not being available for chess later on tonight. And right when Dexter goes to respond, the maid walks over and tells him that he has an important phone call. He then mentions to Henry that it is probably his best student, Charlie, who he thinks may get the Nobel Peace Prize before he is 20 because all he does is work in the lab. So next we see Dexter answer the phone and we find out that it is Mike the janitor on the other end, and Mike is informing him about this crate that he just found. And at first, Dexter's really not too interested in it until Mike tells him it is from 1834, which definitely piques his interest, telling Mike he will be right over. So as Dexter pulls off, we see Henry regretfully watching him leave as he dreadfully listens to his nagging wife's voice in the background. He then turns and yells her name, and when she turns around, he pulls out a gun and shoots her right between the eyes, killing her in front of everyone. At first, the crowd is stunned until finally someone breaks the silence as they begin to clap, and we see here that not a single person is upset at this, with one woman even complimenting his shooting skills.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
that whole scene. Like, the him shooting her in the head looked good too, but it's one of those, like, jarring, surprising scenes where
Yeah,
you're
I
like, "Oh, shit."
didn't see it coming. Unfortunately, though, we quickly discovered that this was Henry daydreaming about killing his wife, and he gets snapped out of it by Wilma, who is once again dogging him in front of everyone, which I personally do not blame him for thinking about this because she sucks, man. She she'll make you jump off a fucking bridge or something, like, she will nag you. She's a succubus that will drain every drop of happiness and joy from your life.
Yeah, I was so bummed when I've seen that he was just daydreaming, and he didn't actually shoot her. Like, she is fucking awful, and she does such a good job. The actress does such a good job at playing a, like, just despicable,
Person,
like,
yeah.
that woman who drinks too much wine and is just rude as fuck to everybody and just the loudmouth of the party.
Yeah. So we then hop on over to the college where we see Dexter and Mike removing the wooden box, and they notice that the box has these thick chains on it with these very old locks. So they then move the box into the lab, but as they're sitting it on the work table, Mike says he felt something move. But Dexter says that there's no way that something is moving inside this box considering it is over 100 years old. While they're attempting to get the box open, we then jump back over to Henry's house where we see Wilma preparing to go out for a few hours. And as she is walking out the door, we see Henry remove his tie, come up behind her, and begin strangling her. But we quickly see here that this is just another one of his wife killing daydreams.
This one got me.
You thought this one was real
I
too?
thought this one was real too. Like, I thought this one was more real than the first because he was at home at this point.
Yeah.
He's been pissed off. She's been embarrassing him the whole party, and then now he's got her at home. He's already been thinking about killing her, and I was like, oh yes,
Let down.
fuck.
You're getting wife killing blue balls over here. So, back at the lab, we see that Dexter and Mike have started to pry the box open when suddenly they start to hear a very small sound telling them that there may be something alive inside. And right as Mike goes to stick his hand in the box to see what it is, Dexter notices some yellow, evil looking eyes, causing him to try and stop Mike, but unfortunately, it is too late as we immediately see Mike scream in pain while elbow deep in the box. Dexter tries to help him pull his arm out, but it is no use as it only results in the box flipping over. We then see Mike's bloody, chewed up arm still hanging out as we begin to hear some growling. The lid then suddenly flips open, revealing an abominable snowman looking monster with these huge teeth, and the box lid closes back and we see it begin to pull Mike's body in until blood starts spilling all over the floor.
I bet you Mike was like, I'm okay with this death. Like, I don't ever get to do anything fun and exciting at work, and I finally got to do something fun with one of the professors.
Maybe he's like, I didn't save any money for retirement, so
It's
it's either this or work myself to death.
Yeah, you can just tell though, like he's like super excited about this box thing that he
Yeah.
found. He literally tracked down the house party that this professor was at and called them, and he's super excited. He went out happy. He's like, I'm okay with this. I got killed by some weird thing that was found by a college on an expedition 150 years ago. That's okay. That's a story to tell when I'm dead.
So a now freaked out Dexter takes off running out of the lab when he suddenly runs into his star student, Charlie, in the hallway. Now, I have a serious problem here. You're telling me that this Charlie guy is supposed to be a fucking college student. This dude looks like he's at least, at minimum, 37.
Well, there's no age on going to college.
Yeah, but remember, Dexter
Yeah,
said,
I remember.
yeah, supposedly he's 19.
He has literally schoolworked himself into old age.
He's already got 3 kids and a mortgage. Yeah, I don't know why they cast this guy.
This dude
This is the worst casting.
He was smoking a fucking pack a day at 12 doing homework.
Oh, his hairline is receded so far back. His hair's so thinned out. Like, it's like saying George Costanza from fucking Seinfeld's like 19. Like, no. Like, it's not believable at all. So Dexter attempts to tell Charlie what happened, but he doesn't seem like he really believes him all that much and convinces Dexter not to call the police, saying that they will think that he is on some kind of like drug bender. And this is where Charlie decides that he needs to go check it out himself. But when Charlie and Dexter arrive at the lab, they find that the box is now gone and all that is left is blood all over the floor. So they end up following the trail of blood where they find that the box is now back under the stairs where it was before. Charlie, who is a scientist to his core, then attempts to crawl under and grab Mike's bloody shoe so he can measure the bite marks of the creature. This is going to be a little bit of curiosity killed the cat. So after he gets the shoe, he then attempts to get a closer look at what the box says on the side, when suddenly the creature pops out and strikes him in the shoulder, greatly injuring him. Charlie then attempts to fight back, but he is no match for the creature's strength and sharp claws. Charlie then tries to escape, but the creature bites into his neck, ripping a huge chunk of flesh from his body. He then slams Charlie against the wall and uses his claws to shred Charlie's face, cutting one of his eyeballs in half. This is one of my favorite parts of the movie. Probably my second favorite part. Love this.
Yeah, this has looked awesome.
Fantastic.
The bite and the scratch across the face look fucking phenomenal.
I love the scratch. It looked fucking great.
The eye is what did the scratch.
Yeah.
And it put it up on that next level. Really good kill.
So while this thing basically rips Charlie apart, Dexter just cannot take any more as he freaks out and takes off running out of the college, where we see him head to Henry's house, where he is still carrying around Mike's shredded bloody shoe. So an almost delirious Dexter then attempts to tell Henry what happened, but Henry finds this kind of hard to believe, and after a while, Dexter starts talking about how to get rid of the creature, and this gives Henry a bit of an idea. He then goes to the bathroom where we see him grab a pill from a bottle, and when he comes back to the room, we see him make Dexter a drink while secretly pouring the powder from the pill in the glass. And as we'll see, he does this because he needs Dexter to go to sleep for a while, you could say.
Yeah, and at this point, you're like, what the fuck does he have planned out? Like, where he would need to drug his friend and knock him out.
Well, the whole time, like up until this point, like I was wondering how these two stories were going to collide. And it was at this point where I was like, oh, he's going to get the creature to like eat his annoying ass wife. Like, this is where I put it together. So once Dexter is passed out in the room upstairs, we then see Henry write a note for his wife Wilma and then head to the college where he begins to clean up all of the evidence of what happened earlier. So basically what this note says is Henry made up the story that Dexter called him freaking out, saying he had lured this girl to the lab and then attacked her in some kind of way. And Henry had to rush off to help him. And what Henry needs Wilma for is to come help him with the girl because she's now hiding under the staircase and refuses to come out. And the reason why this works is because remember at the party earlier, Wilma spotted Dexter talking to the young, attractive woman, so she totally believes that he could do something like this.
Yeah, when the notes first read, so I know at this point he's luring his wife there, obviously. But when he starts reading the note about his friend, the professor, like doing all these things with these college girls, all these like inappropriate things, and he gets fucked up and, like, abuses them. I was like, "Oh my god." Like, that's believable because he was talking to this college girl, like, earlier on, and then it hit me, like, right after that, I was like, he knows his wife is so into drama that this is the one
Yeah.
thing that will excite her enough to get in the car and come there,
Yep.
is she is so into drama that she is willing to drop anything she's doing out of the excitement of despite, like, whether this girl's, like, beat or fucked up or fucking half dead, she's, like, super happy and excited about it because it's drama.
Well, it also gives her more ammo against her husband because, of course, she's going to immediately be like, well, your friend's a piece of shit.
Yeah, and you've been covering up, cleaning, like, up his messes,
Yeah.
essentially. That's what he says in the note.
So Wilma then heads over to the college, which I love how she brings along her fucking glass of milk. But yeah, when she arrives, she then heads down where she meets with Henry, and Henry is kind of explaining to her what happened when she suddenly notices Charlie's broken, bloody glasses. And this makes her think that Dexter beat the shit out of this girl. And then, for some reason, Henry can't hold back his joy and excitement over what is about to happen, which kind of confuses Wilma. He then orders her to crawl under the stairs and try to get the girl out, but she's being way too cautious for Henry, who finally just can't take it anymore, and he pushes her against the box.
Bro, look how happy she gets right before this, though. When she's like, oh my God, what did he do to her?
Yeah.
Is she conscious? Like, she's so happy. She don't give a fuck about this girl who's, like, possibly, like, beat to death.
Absolutely not.
She's just, like, super stoked on the drama.
So she's totally confused by this and tries to ask Henry just what the hell he's doing, but he continues to slam her into the box, attempting to wake the creature up. I love the line where he yells like, she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Just tell, just tell it to call you Billy." Because we've seen at the party that she says that to everybody she meets. Like, yeah, my name's Wilma, but just call me Billy. He fucking, I love that line. He just does a little dig. So after a while, the creature shows no signs of even existing, and Henry kind of gives up as he sits there totally confused. Wilma begins to berate him again. She starts saying that he's terrible at making friends, he sucks at his job, he's incapable of making good money, and he sucks in bed. And right as she starts really laying into him, the box lid suddenly pops open, and we see the creature come up behind her, grab her by the shoulders, and bite right into her neck as she begins screaming. So after Wilma is eaten, we then see Henry get a new lock and relock the box back up, where he then loads it into the back of Wilma's car, where he drives it to the quarry that him and Dexter talked about earlier in order to dump the box into the water. I don't know how the fuck he lifts the crate by himself, especially it's not only the monster, but it's also 3 bodies in there.
The excitement of his new life that he has now that his wife is dead.
His wife is dead, and it gives him the strength to do anything.
And one thing that's a bummer about this monster out of this box. So I mean, it does look kind of cool. They did an amazing, like, Tom Savini built this himself, and they had it where the guy could literally make all these facial expressions and all the, like, bites and stuff. He was able to do that from inside the mask and with his own face, and it was done really good. But I seen some of the pre-concept drawings that they took to the other one of the other special effects guys who was being interviewed, and it was some of Tom Savini's, like, early thoughts, because Tom Savini initially said he didn't want it to look like a werewolf, which is kind of what it ended up looking, kind of like a Arctic werewolf thing. But some of the early designs drawings were awesome, man. Like, one of them was this creature that's face had, like, characteristics of a fly, but it was like a giant creature with teeth,
Oh,
and it
wow.
looked awesome.
Huh. I'm gonna
This thing even looked scarier. At one point when they're doing tests with it, it's just painted like a light green with no hair on it yet, and it looked way fucking cooler.
Huh.
Thought the hair was a mistake.
So we then jump to the next morning where we see Henry has woken Dexter up and told him the whole story of what happened last night. And you can tell that Dexter's a little freaked out by what Henry has done, but they do agree to not say anything about what happened and keep this secret of the monster in the box to themselves. Dexter does ask Henry what if the creature manages to get out, but Henry reassures him that the way he chained it up, it is not possible. We then jump to underneath the water where we see the box fully submerged when suddenly the creature breaks the box open and swims to the surface. And much like Wilma, that is the end of our story called The Crate.
So there is kind of a weird dynamic though here at the end with the friends because
Yeah.
so it seems like they're friends, but like the it seems like Dexter's kind of, moved on with his life. He's talking to these chicks. Like, he agrees to go play chess with Henry because I think he kind of feels bad for him.
Yeah, it's a sympathy thing.
Yeah, and then after this happens, he kind of sees Henry in a different light, and
Oh, yeah.
Henry's real happy. He's like, "Well, we'll be playing chess like literally every week," and Dex makes the comment like, "But I didn't do anything wrong." Like, almost like, "You can't use this, like, to
He's trying to blackmail him.
me into being here every week no matter what. Like, I didn't do anything wrong in this situation. You murdered your wife." And you can tell he's very hesitant, and it's a very weird dynamic that happens at the end of this story.
Yeah, I honestly, the vibe I got was as soon as they're done playing chess, Dexter's going to the police.
Yeah, or just gonna, like, just ghost him.
Maybe. But I feel like he would try to get out of the harm's way as quick as possible because he didn't really do anything wrong.
Yeah, but also try explaining that to the police.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we immediately jump right into our final tale called They're Creeping Up on You, which is my personal favorite story of the movie. So we start out by meeting a man named Upton Pratt, and he is a very wealthy, very powerful man who we see lives in a special high-tech, germ-free apartment. Because as we are about to find out, he is a germaphobe. Funny thing here is when I was typing this out, for some reason, my autocorrect on Google Docs changed this to homophobe, and I almost didn't catch it.
He's gotta live in those high dollar penthouses.
Honestly, he
Just
probably
stay away from the
he
homos.
probably is a homophobe because we also see he's racist. He kind of just hate
This guy is
yeah.
a homophobe for sure. I thought it was funny. He pays $3,200 a month for his penthouse that overlooks this entire city. And that is absolutely crazy because that's not far from what I pay for my 3-bedroom house now. And could you imagine what this apartment and like overlooking like New York City would cost now?
Oh, I don't even know if you'd be able to rent it. You'd have to buy something like that for like $80 million or something.
Yeah, just something crazy.
So we see that Upton is wearing a robe. His hair is all crazy, and he's just kind of hanging out in his apartment. And we see he has just killed a roach on the ground with some roach spray. And the thing you need to know about Upton is, out of all the things in the world he absolutely hates, roaches are at the top of his list.
And people of other races and people who have less money than him and so on.
Yes, the list goes on and on.
And homos, apparently, too.
After he kills this roach, we then see him take his little COVID mask off, and he puts it in his little trash suction tube, and he goes and washes his hands as he complains that he doesn't want any roaches in the whole entire building. So after this, we then see Upton get a phone call from a man named George who works for him. And George is trying to explain something important, but Upton continues to cut him off. And this is where we learn that the building supervisor, Mr. Reynolds, has gone on vacation, which has greatly upset Upton. Before George can get the conversation back on track, Upton notices that the roach that he just killed has come back to life and is crawling around on the floor, which causes Upton to attempt to end the call with George abruptly. George, who realizes what is about to happen, finally just spits it out and says, Norman Kastenmeier, the CEO of Pacific Aerodyne, which is a company that Upton just took over, has just shot himself dead, and this is directly related to Upton's takeover of his company. Now, surprisingly, Upton loves this news and is very happy that this guy killed himself.
Yeah, this guy's a savage. Like, the guy who owned the company that he just did a hostile takeover on, he kills himself. And out of his excitement, he's like, awesome, we don't have to have him on the board now. Because when you do a hostile takeover, obviously he's still going to own a giant chunk of the shares. He's still going to be a board member. He's like, fuck yeah. And then he gets off the phone. He tells the guy, like, don't talk yourself into ruining good news.
Yeah, this is not bothering him at all.
Go out and fuck somebody, but wear rubber.
So after that, we then skip ahead a little bit where we see that Upton is going around spraying random roaches that he's finding around his apartment when suddenly he gets another call. But this time it is from Norman Kastenmeier's widow. And she calls to tell Upton what a monster he is and that she is going to be so happy when he finally dies. Which he responds with a big smile as he says, lots of people are going to rejoice when I'm dead, which is a fantastic response.
I love that he just straight up admits it.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, sure, lots of people are going to be super excited when I die.
And then he's like, so who is this?
Yeah.
So she basically goes on to tell him about how horrible of a person he is. And she kind of tells him the story of her husband coming home and killing himself. And he responds with, yes, I heard he went out with a bang. and basically we see in this whole conversation here that Upton has no sympathy for what has happened because he is very cutthroat and only cares about germs, bugs, money, and power.
Also, the great quote, well, I can't fire him now, can I? Like, this dude is a fucking, obviously awful, but he is hilarious.
Yes.
Like, he is a fucking hilarious savage, and this is just the type of humor and savagery that I just imagine Trump runs the White House with.
So after this, Upton then gets another call, but this time it is from the building manager, Mr. Reynolds. And Upton basically chews him out for being gone, and there's still being bugs in the building. And Mr. Reynolds tells him that Mr. White is in control of the building while he is gone, and he will send him over to deal with the bug situation. So we then cut to Upton eating a bowl of, I think it's Raisin Bran, and he starts to notice dead roaches mixed in with his cereal, which is fucking disgusting. I would throw up. This would fuck me up. He then starts looking through the box of cereal where he dumps it out on the counter, and when he does this, we see roaches start running all over the place. After this, Upton then hears the doorbell ring, and when he goes to see who it is, we see that it is Mr. White, who, remember, is filling in for Reynolds. And Mr. White is black, ironically, which Upton 100% makes a comment about.
You know Stephen King did that on purpose.
So, Mr. White informs Upton that he is going to contact a fumigating company and hopefully will have them out there by 11:30, which makes Upton very happy. This is such a weird interaction, and this actually caused me to develop a theory on where I thought this story was going, but I'll reveal that at the end.
You know, in Mr. Pratt's defense here, I would be fucking pissed if I had a roach issue like this too. Like,
Oh
I
yeah, this is
would be
gross.
fucking pissed. Like, this isn't a roach or two like it was in the beginning. There's now roaches, like, running everywhere, and I hate roaches. Like, you know this, but
Yeah.
the listeners probably don't. I will take spiders over roaches any day. Like, roaches are the fucking scum of the fucking earth. And we have these awesome ones in South Carolina called palmetto bugs. They're called
Ugh,
like water bugs up north, but they're just giant fucking cockroaches.
that fly.
And I literally, if I was in this apartment right now, I would be fucking livid. I'd be leaving
Wouldn't
until they
ya?
fucking did something
I would
about this.
I would totally leave.
And I'd be like, I'm not paying my $3,200. You shove it up your fucking ass until there's not 1,000 roaches in my house.
So after this conversation, we then see Upton go back to killing random roaches in his apartment when we start to see tons of them coming out of the sink, coming out of the vents in the wall, running around in the lights on the ceiling. It's a nightmare. And to make it even worse, as they start running around Upton's feet, there's a fucking blackout and the lights shut off, making it pitch black in the apartment. So Upton then makes his way to the control panel where he is able to flip on some emergency lighting, and we see that there are fucking roaches crawling all over everything, including Upton himself. He then calls the police and tells them that he has a cockroach problem, to which the police are like, dude, it is really busy. We don't have time for this shit. And they hang up on him. So after that plan fails, Upton then calls Mr. White, who he finds out because of the power outage is stuck in the elevator and can't help him. This news greatly upsets Upton, and we see like hundreds and hundreds of roaches all over the place, including on him, and this causes him to have a bit of a breakdown where he then tells Mr. White that he will have his job. And he then calls him a black bastard.
Yeah, the flickering lights, like, going in and out when the power went out and the lightning's flashing, and you can slowly see these roaches when the lights flash or, like, coming out of the drains and everywhere. Probably one of the more horrifying scenes of the entire movie for me. Also, one of the best shot, like, cinematography-wise, like, one of the coolest setup shots of the entire movie.
Honestly, one of the things that really fucks me up is the shot of the sink, like, so full of cockroaches. It's, like, overflowing.
Yeah, that's gross.
They're, like,
Like,
spilling out on the floor and everything. It's like, I don't know if I could have even been on the film crew for this.
Yeah, one of the ladies said too, I forgot which story they were shooting. She said that they were sitting there in makeup, waiting for another shot to be, or waiting for another take to be shot, and they could just, like, they were just watching these roaches run around, and they said that the crew who handled that, the animal crew brought in the roaches, like, swore that they wrangled up all of them, but they didn't, and there was, like, roaches running around these sets.
No. So now, considering that Upton's apartment has been completely taken over by thousands of roaches, he is left to his last resort, which is his safe room. We then see him run over, punch in a code which opens up a sealed glass door where he runs inside and seals it back shut. And we see inside of this very small room is pretty much just a couple of air tanks, a phone, and a small bed. That's it. And Upton finally feels like he is safe and starts saying that when this is all over, he's going to have a lot of people fired. But this is soon interrupted by another phone call, and when he answers it, we see that it is Norman Castromeyer's wife again. And she starts telling him about how he's a monster and all this stuff. And while this is going on, Upton notices the blanket on the bed start to move, like there is something under it. And right as she begins to repeat, "I hope you die," we see Upton yank the blanket off the bed, revealing thousands of roaches crawling around. And now that the blanket has been removed, this causes the roaches to scatter all over this tiny room, including all over Upton. We then see Upton start grabbing at his throat like he can't breathe, where he eventually falls back onto the bed and passes out, when suddenly the electricity comes back on, revealing no roaches at all. And to make matters even more interesting, we hear Mr. White arrive back at the door, where he begins to taunt Upton through the little speaker. We then cut back over to Upton, who is still laying on the bed in his safe room, and we start to see movements coming from under his robe. The camera then zooms in on his face, and this is where all hell breaks loose, because we start to see some of the roaches under his skin, and then roaches just start pouring out of his fucking mouth, when suddenly thousands of roaches burst out of his fucking chest. I almost fell out of my seat. Is pure nightmare fuel. Like, this is my favorite shot of the movie, and it just creeps me out, like, so bad.
Yeah, the chest, they're coming out of his neck. One of the really cool things, like right before they bust out of his chest, is a spot in his skull splits open and it starts running blood, like right before all the roaches start going rampant. And after they start pouring out of all these other holes, they literally start coming out of his head too. So there was so many roaches in there that it created enough pressure to crack his skull open and bust out of his head.
Ugh, it's wild.
It is super, super, super fucked up.
We then jump ahead a little bit, where we get an outside shot of the safe room, and we see that it has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of roaches, literally like 3 feet deep, full of bugs. And that is the end of our last story. They're creeping up on you.
There's no way I could have been on set for the, because they used real roaches for this.
Yeah.
I thought, maybe they CGI'd a bunch of roaches in there. I know CGI wasn't great in the 80s, but they did use it in some situations, small like bugs from a distance. But to find out that the roach wranglers couldn't get all the roaches up, there was so many of them, is just, there's no way I could have been on set for them filming that. I literally, like, no joke, when they busted out of his body, I got goosebumps. Like, I not only got goosebumps, but I started getting itchy on certain parts of my body.
So my theory for what was going on was, I thought the ending was going to reveal that Upton had died, and this was like his hell. Because his interaction with Mr. White it reminds me almost of like, oh, there's a fucking spider right there.
So for the roaches, man, the roaches everywhere.
So like his interaction with Mr. White really reminds me, it's like similar to like The Shining, where he's talking to the former butler.
Yeah.
Like, it's really not a real conversation. It's really weird.
It almost seems like Mr. White's in on it.
Yeah, like he's evil.
Like, it almost seems like, to me, Mr. White may have practiced some voodoo or some witchcraft, not to be a race thing, and he kind of knew that this was going to happen. Like, maybe he was responsible because he knew that Mr. Pratt's, like, greatest fear was, like, germs and bugs. I mean, he had painted every bit of trim, every cabinet, every piece of this entire apartment was just white. Everything was pure white, so you could see any speck of dirt, any bug, super easy. Like, the guy was a mega germaphobe. The worst way for him to die would be by bugs. And like, that just has like voodoo or witchcraft written all over it. I kind of thought that it was going to be also like the ladies, the guy who killed himself over the hostile takeover, the lady who kept calling him, like, she put some kind of curse on him. But then and Mr. White coming and talking shit through the door seems like he knew what was going on. So there's definitely something at play outside of here. Like, I know your theory on him being dead wasn't a thing, but I do think that there is some shit outside of here that we're not privy to.
Yeah, I think he's dead. I think he's in his own personal.
Oh, you still think that?
Yeah, I
Like,
think he's
this
in.
whole story was his
I think he's in
personal
his.
hell.
Yeah, he's in his own personal hell. That's my
Okay.
opinion.
I think maybe he's in his personal hell now. I think that definitely one of those two people definitely put some voodoo on him or some witchcraft and caused him to die by bug.
So next we jump back to the original neighborhood from the very beginning of the film, and we see that it is now the next morning, and the trash men are picking people's trash up and throwing it in the truck. And this is where we get our awesome cameo of Tom Savini. So Savini, the trash man, is walking along, following behind the truck, when he suddenly finds the Creepshow comic book laying in the street. And while the trash truck is crushing the trash, him and his partner begin to look through the back of the book, where they keep all of the cool stuff that you can order. They then come across a page for an authentic voodoo doll when Savini notices that it has already been cut out, meaning someone has already sent for the voodoo doll. We then head inside the house where we see our favorite Dr. Detective Stan sitting at the breakfast table with his wife who's folding some clothes. And Stan asks his wife where their son Billy is, to which she says that he must still be up in his room. His wife then asks if he's been feeling okay, to which he responds that he hasn't been getting much sleep because of this stiff neck that he has. And we see here that Stan's shirt that she is ironing has a big hole cut out of it, which is going to be really important. She then tells him that it must be just a strain, and Stan agrees when he suddenly feels a sharp pain in the back of his neck. We then jump upstairs where we see little old Billy holding a voodoo doll, which is wearing the piece of Stan's shirt that we just saw cut up. And as we zoom in, we see that Billy is stabbing the doll with a needle in the back of the neck. Billy then says, "I will teach you not to throw away my comic books," as he then begins stabbing the doll in the front of the neck. And we then jump back downstairs where we see Stan holding the front of his neck in a great deal of pain. We then get the ominous Creepshow music playing as we see Billy, now with an evil smile on his face, as he just continuously stabs the doll over and over again. And that is the end of Creepshow.
Hell yeah, kid.
Yep.
Now, fuck him up, man. Teach that piece of shit to respect the genre. You don't throw away a horror comic. You don't do it. That was an asshole thing to do, and he deserved to be murdered with invisible giant needles. I guess that's how it works.
So the alternate ending for Something to Tide You Over is where two policemen stop by to investigate Richard's claims of Harry and Becky breaking into his beach house. Richard then attempts to prove his story by showing them the footage of the two zombies walking through the house, but instead, what appears on the screen is his incriminating conversation with Harry while on the beach. We then cut to his murder trial where he is convicted and sentenced to death row. We then hard cut again to Richard in the gas chamber, laughing hysterically as he dies. I think that was a better ending. I would have stuck with that. Fluffy, the creature from the crate, was the first fully animatronic creature Tom Savini had ever created. He spent over an hour and a half on the phone with Rob Bottin, who is the effects artist from The Thing, The Howling, and Total Recall, getting advice on how to build it. Apparently, there were 20 to 250,000 real cockroaches used in this movie, which were provided by the American Museum of Natural History. And according to George A. Romero, the insects were the most expensive part of the film at 50 cents a piece. That's expensive, yeah. And according to Tom Savini, when Fluffy breaks out of the crate once it is dumped in the water, The remains of Wilma were supposed to float out of the crate. However, this was deleted. Apparently, according to Romero, with their deal with Warner Brothers, they had to delete a little over 10 minutes of the whole entire movie.
Damn.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, that's not just like your normal like 1 or 2 minutes. It gets cut in a director's cut. That's an extended version.
Yeah, 10 minutes a lot. All right, so ratings and kill count. Got a lot here. We have a total of 13, maybe 16 kills. We have Belinda's boyfriend, who was shot by Nathan. Nathan, who was beat to death with the ashtray. Belinda, who was strangled by zombie Nathan. Hank had his head crushed by a tombstone. The maid, killed by zombie Nathan. Sylvia had her neck snapped by zombie Nathan. Jordy, who shot himself with a shotgun. Becky drowned in the ocean. Harry drowned in the ocean. Mike the janitor was eaten by Fluffy. Charlie had his neck bitten and face slashed by Fluffy. Wilma was eaten by Fluffy. Upton Pratt was torn apart by roaches. And here's our 3 that we didn't actually see die but may have died, which is Cass. She may have been killed by zombie Nathan. Richard Grantham, who was possibly killed by zombie Nathan. And Richard Vickers, who was possibly killed by the water zombies. What's your favorite kill?
Well, give me a second. I'll tell you. All right, so my favorite kill was, and this is hard because we don't. There's some really cool kills, but we don't actually get to see the kills. Very Tales from the Crypt, whereas a lot of times we see like the aftermath of the lead up, but we don't actually see the kill itself. I gotta say, Sylvia's head being served on the platter. So obviously she got decapitated. That's her kill. And then her head was used as a zombie cake, which this man really, really wanted. The effects looked awesome. The old man zombie was absolutely horrifying. The lighting was perfect. I thought the whole scene was absolutely a perfect way to end the first story. A close second would be the young teacher's assistant,
Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie, who gets killed by Fluffy. The bite out of his neck looked absolutely fucking awesome. And then they top it off with a fucking full face slash that literally like cuts his eyeball. That was really close to being my number 1. Both of those 2 were perfect scenes in my opinion.
For me, my favorite was the Upton Pratt, which was the roaches bursting out of his mouth and his neck. That is an amazing scene and makes me cringe. And my second was Charlie. It was good.
Yeah. The only reason I didn't put Upton Pratt on there is I think that as awesome of a kill as that was, it was the only kill in the entire movie, or the only effect in the entire movie that I think was hurt by the 4K restoration.
Yeah.
Because the 4K restoration's done so good, you can tell
It's not him.
Yeah, you can tell it's a dummy laying there. Which, I mean, obviously they had to do it with a dummy. They probably would have done more time making it look more realistic had they known we were going to have 4K TVs and you were going to be able to see it as good. But yeah, as a kill, that was amazing.
All right, so what's your rating?
I gave this a 4.5. This is an absolute gathering of masterclass horror legends. Obviously, George A. Romero directing, Stephen King writing, Tom Savini on effects. All of them had major changes for the better to the genre as a whole. I absolutely loved the comic book changeovers and theme, which I think definitely paved the way in the blueprint for Tales from the Crypt, the show. The comic style color palette, which is used during like every climax, I thought really added to the perfect horror feel. The sets were fucking awesome, like especially the graveyard set and the farmhouse was the farmhouse that gets taken over by like the alien plants. Really awesome set. One thing that doesn't get talked about very much for this movie is the score. The score's really good.
Score is good, yeah.
If you let the menu play, like, the score's good, but on the last, like, 2 measures of the 16 that they overplay, they add these kids doing, like, humming along with it, and it just yeah, I don't know why it bothers me so much every time I hear it. It's so fucking creepy. The effects were amazing. They definitely stood the test of time. They look even better on 4K. The puppetry and effects on Creep, he looked fucking awesome. Overall, the comic color palette combined with the amazing sets, effects, and score made for a movie that struck all the right chords for me. I love it.
I also gave it a 4.5. Cinematography is amazing. The comic book stuff's amazing. The effects are fantastic. The casting is really good, except for Charlie. I thought that was bad casting, but other than that, like, I had a lot of really good actors in it. The stories are fun. I personally think this is a must-watch for September or October. My negatives was I wish we would have seen, like, some of the kills, like the Hank's head splatter kill and the Wilma kill a little more. The biggest negative I have is I am not at all a fan of Stephen King's goofy character.
Yeah.
Do not like that.
I did not care for his character at all. A couple of the things you mentioned is what brings us down to a 4.5.
Yeah.
But his character, his little cross-eyed dumb farmer.
Yeah, it's too far.
Not only is it too far, I don't know why they always portray farmers as dumb. Like, farmers are actually normally really fucking smart people who have to run their own business, and they portray this guy like he can't tie his own fucking shoes.
Well, that's our thoughts on Creepshow. Once again, we thank you guys for listening. Please give us a follow or like if you enjoy the show. Check out the website, check out the socials, check out the store, get you a shirt with some awesome colors like this movie. Tell a friend, a family member, or your nagging wife about the show, and we hope to see you next time.